Former WWE manager Jim Cornette recently spoke about how Solo Sikoa's hostile takeover is affecting Paul Heyman. In the weeks after WrestleMania, Solo Sikoa has taken command of the Bloodline in the absence of Roman Reigns. He eliminated Jimmy Uso from the faction and then added Tama Tonga to the mix. He even ensured that Heyman could not report anything to Roman by destroying his phone on SmackDown. In a recent clip from the Jim Cornette Experience, the veteran mentioned that the Wiseman was in a bad position after Reigns' departure. He pointed out that Paul was nervous around Tama Tonga because he didn't know the man. Cornette claimed that Heyman was doing a great job of selling the fact that Solo was taking over the Bloodline. There's Paul looking like he's **ting himself. He's nervous, he doesn't know what this guy is. An unknown quantity, he's a wild card, he could kill me at any minute. He's nervous around Solo, he's disturbed. He's doing this very well. From 012 to 028, Paul Heyman was on SmackDown this week. It was a tough night for Paul Heyman as WWE kicked off the draft this week on SmackDown. The Wiseman informed the fans that Roman Reigns had voluntarily withdrawn his name from the draft. Later, Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga rolled up to SmackDown. Solo asked Paul Heyman which brand the Bloodline had been drafted. Paul claimed that none of the brands had drafted the faction until then. This angered Solo, and he ordered the Wiseman to fix things immediately. This led to the stable being drafted to SmackDown in the third round. Solo and Tama also got involved in a brawl with Kevin Owens. Randy Orton also joined the chaos, and all four men had to be separated by security officials. Title: The Unlikely Bond, Paul Heyman's Nervous Odyssey with Solo Sikoa. Paul Heyman, the mastermind behind some of WWE's most iconic moments, known for his confident demeanor and silver tongue, found himself in an unexpected predicament. Solo Sikoa. To the outside world, Heyman was the epitome of cool, but behind closed doors, when Solo Sikoa was around, Heyman turned into a bundle of nerves. It all began on a sweltering summer day in Orlando, Florida. Heyman was backstage at a WWE event, going over his script for the night's show, when he heard a voice that sent shivers down his spine. It was the deep, commanding voice of Solo Sikoa, a rising star in the wrestling world. Heyman had heard whispers about Sikoa's potential, but nothing could prepare him for the sheer presence the man exuded. Standing at 6 feet 5 inches with a chiseled physique and an aura of intimidation, Solo Sikoa was a force to be reckoned with. As Heyman tried to focus on his work, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that washed over him whenever Sikoa was nearby. It was as if Heyman's instincts were screaming at him to stay away, but his professional obligations forced him to interact with the imposing figure. Their first encounter was brief but memorable. Heyman attempted to engage in small talk, but his words came out in a jumble, and he found himself stumbling over his sentences. Sikoa, ever the gentleman, simply nodded in response, seemingly unfazed by Heyman's nervous energy. From that moment on, Heyman found himself in a constant state of anxiety whenever Sikoa was around. He would fumble through their conversations, his usually sharp wit deserting him at the most inconvenient times. Heyman's colleagues, accustomed to his confident demeanor, couldn't help but notice the change in his behavior. Rumors began to swirl backstage about Heyman's apparent fear of Sikoa. Some speculated that Heyman saw Sikoa as a threat to his own position within the company, while others believed there was a more personal reason behind Heyman's nervousness. Despite his best efforts to avoid Sikoa, Heyman found himself drawn to the enigmatic wrestler. There was something about Sikoa's presence that both terrified and fascinated him. Heyman couldn't understand why he felt such a strong reaction to Sikoa, but he couldn't deny the impact the man had on him. As weeks turned into months, Heyman's anxiety around Sikoa only seemed to intensify. He became obsessed with trying to decipher the source of his fear, poring over old memories and analyzing every interaction he'd ever had with Sikoa. One fateful evening, Heyman found himself alone with Sikoa in the locker room. With nowhere to run and no distractions to hide behind, Heyman finally confronted his fears head-on. He confessed to Sikoa about the crippling anxiety he felt whenever they were in each other's presence, expecting ridicule or scorn in return. To Heyman's surprise, Sikoa responded with empathy and understanding. He revealed that he, too, had struggled with his own demons in the past, and that he admired Heyman's tenacity in the face of adversity. In that moment, something shifted between Heyman and Sikoa. The walls of anxiety that had once separated them crumbled away, leaving behind a newfound sense of camaraderie. Heyman realized that his fear of Sikoa had been born out of insecurity and self-doubt, but through their unlikely bond, he had found the courage to confront his inner demons. From that day forward, Heyman and Sikoa became unlikely allies, each supporting the other in their respective journeys within the world of professional wrestling. Heyman's nervous odyssey with Solo Sikoa had come to an end, replaced by a deep sense of respect and admiration for the man who had once been his greatest source of fear.